Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday show and tell. And it's the third week in a row that I've gotten to do these. I'm actually following my schedule. Hey, anyways, as promised, actually a couple shows ago, I think I said, the next show I'll show some of my monotypes. And then what I actually did last week was show a almost full sketchbook that I started in 2020 prior to the unpleasantness, and then kind of set it aside or misplaced it for a year or two, did some sketching in it, set it aside and misplaced it, and for a year or two, or definitely 2 years, and then was using it for notes for classes I was taking. Anyways, so that's there. That video is age restricted because I had some life drawing in the sketchbook, and I thought it was only proper to link to the sites that I used as references, including Crocus Cafe. And anyways, YouTube flagged it as inappropriate nudity or whatever. I mean, I didn't get a channel strike, but I got a channel warning. I have appealed it. I don't know if they're going to do anything about the appeal because the warning expires in August or whatever. But the point is, if I have more sketchbooks in the future, I will, where I have life drawing, I will simply have to not show or not link to my external references. I'll just tell you. Anyways, so that's that, in case you're wondering, like, what are you talking about? I don't know. It should show up for anyone who's logged in. The previous video should show up if you're over 18. Like normal, but if you're not logged in and just stumbling upon this, maybe it shows, like, maybe it doesn't show. I don't know. And we've changed up our backdrop. This is a Tula Pink quilting cotton. Instead of the batik. 'Cause one thing I noticed in the sketchbook was it seemed like at times and also with the ceramic mugs video, it seemed at times that my camera wanted to focus on the pattern, not on the pieces. Now, because I'm showing flat work today, it should all be fine. But anyways, point is that I think this pattern is discontinued now. It was like a limited time one for Tula Pink, and I also just realized it's upside down. I don't know if this shows, but the birdies are are we in focus? Yeah, sort of. The birdies are all upside down, but oh well. So what are we talking about today? Monotypes. And just as a starting point, what I got here is I'll talk a bit about process. So we've got a acrylic or plexiglass plate. This is one I bought in an art store, so you know the corners are, I don't know how much that shows, but the corners are rounded and it's got a bevel so that when this goes over, and again, how well, I can't tell in my viewfinder if I'm in focus, but maybe you can tell there's a bit of a rounded bevel on the edge. So when you run it through the printing press, you're not like tearing your paper or whatever, or damaging anything. So the idea with this, and I'll show the prints in a sec, but what I do is I take a just plain old, actually even these prints are on pages out of a sketchbook, and I'll talk about why in a sec. But it's mixed media paper. So I rip one out. As you can see the outline, there's an outline of the plate, so I can line it up. Are we in focus? Me going, am I in focus, is probably really annoying, but like, I swear, this is a like very old camcorder. And when I say old, I mean it's from like 2008 when I was taking some coursework at BCIT in the new media design program. So it was like pretty hot shot camera at that point. The footage is still good and works and all, but the viewfinder is kind of terrible, so I can never tell. I think I'm in focus, but anyways, you can see the outline of the plate. And then my process when I do printmaking drop-ins, a place that has, I go to Ladysmith Arts and they have printmaking drop-ins there. So then I put my plate on top. but I've got the reference drawing underneath. Now this is Noah. All the prints I'm going to show today are my character Noah Thorsen from Noah's Archipelago. I also do Ricky B. Rat ones, Miles Marav, who's Ricky's buddy, and I'm going to do a video series at some point where I do a drawing of each character that I have, and like as I'm drawing, explain who they are and whatnot, so I have reference to link to, but that'll be for later in the summer. Anyways, I put this down underneath, or I do the rough sketch, and then I put the plate on, and what I'm not going to show right now, but I will link below, I will link to some of the Monotype shorts that I've made, because that's the sped up version. It usually takes about 15 minutes, and then I speed it up to 30 seconds. But you can see what I'm doing. Anyways, at Ladysmith Arts, they just use Akua Inks, which is a... they're still oil-based inks, but they're like soy oil or something. Anyways, it's non-toxic. Well, except for the pigments, because I think they do have a cadmium red. Gets into a whole thing. Like phthalo blue. Phthalates are really bad for you, actually. But people view them as, people don't think about the pigment so much. Other than like cadmium or whatnot, people tend to not think about the pigments in terms of toxicity. But anyway, so Akua Inks is what that studio uses because it's officially non-toxic. I find versus like the old, like when I first learned monotypes, that was at Machosin International Summer School for the Arts in 2022. I don't have any of those works here, but I'll show them on some other video. But we were using like traditional oil-based etching inks, which are very stiff. They're almost like tar. Akua, there's one or two pigments that are stiff, but they're much runnier. Like some of them are as runny as olive oil. Most of them aren't as runny as olive oil. They're kind of like in between. But what I use is I have very small detail brushes, and I'll paint the design on top of the plate. When I'm happy, then of course I wipe the edges down. I get a piece of paper ready, and I run it through the press. Now what I like with this way of working, I mean, when I did stuff with the oil inks, like the oil etching inks, which I think our instructor had actually ordered. They're like from France, and there was like only one place in Toronto where you could get them in Canada that she had to do mail order. Anyways, but those ones, at least wherever you put a mark, it's going to be there. So you can see on your plate pretty much exactly what it's going to look like. And we did things with like Shinkale and whatnot, which I'll explain some other time. But those, at least you knew exactly, because what was on the plate, assuming you had the pressure right and whatnot, that was what was going to get onto your paper. Where Akua is a little different, because they're a little runny and they're a little goopy. And because I'm painting with a paintbrush and not like using a roller, but even using a roller, because I've done that before, and I have friends who work that way, there's always a little bit of what's going to happen with Akua Inks. Now, sometimes that's really fun. And what my process has become is very much kind of a test the idea out and work very spontaneously type of thing. And then if I want something more finished, I would take one of these and do like an acrylic painting or whatever. If I want to know exactly what my, or not exactly, but roughly what my print's going to look like, then I do lino cut, right? And I use Speedball relief printing inks. Or one thing I want to get into is Caligo Safe Wash, which is kind of more like the traditional etching, but like it's stiffer, but it's also can be cleaned up with soap and water, and you don't need solvents, and blah, 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 blah. So anyway, so that's a bit of an explanation. And I was going to say this plate isn't clean, but then I realized that's a smudge on here. You can see some of the inks from this, and we will see the print that pulled from this. So when we have a drop-in, I may do 4 to, sometimes I've done as many as 7 of these in a 4-hour period, and they're all going to look a little different, and that's kind of the fun of it. The one thing I don't like with Akua is they take forever to dry, and they're kind of, sometimes even when they're dry, they're greasy. I have prints that I did last year, and when I take them out of the drawer and I touch them, they kind of feel a little bit greasy still. So I don't sell these works because I'm like, I mean, yeah, they're fine. You could, you know, you have to have them matted, which you should have prints like etchings and even lino cuts. You really should have a matte, so you have that little gap between the print and the glass when you frame it. But particularly with these, it's kind of a problem. Anyways, that's so that's a frustration I have with Akua, but it is, I like the spontaneity and the what's going to happen next with them kind of aspect of working with them. So I do work with them when I go to printmaking drop-ins. So let's flip through, and I don't think I have these in like chronological order or whatnot. We're just gonna flip through. So first up, this is, so the background here, actually, ooh. Now, some of the spots in his hair are still just a little bit, not, you know, this one's mostly dry now. So I guess this was done in 2023. But I have others of these where they still feel a little, almost like talky, soapy kind of feel. So this one's finally dry. I don't know, but even so, like from a business perspective, you don't want something where you have to have it sitting for 2 years before you can package it and sell it. Anyways, I did with these ones. These were done sort of the same and sort of not. So I had all these different ones where I just randomly rolled out a pinkish color in the backdrop, so they're all different. Some of them have like a kind of a wave pattern, etc. And then over top of that, I did multiple layers with this. Can't find where I have the drawing for Noah's Canada Day. And I think I described this as Noah being a few too many Molsons deep into Canada Day, so he's running around buck naked. So I had the drawing, and this one I did in multiple passes, actually. Mostly nowadays, I just use multiple colors and do one pass when I'm painting. But this one, the backdrop, the backdrops were done, I think, a month beforehand. And then the next printmaking drop-in, I did the multiple passes. So the first pass through, and you'll notice if I zoom in, yeah, you can see the other fun thing doing it this way is you don't get perfect registration. Like, there's a plate emboss, which, can you see it? Oh, if it turns up. Maybe in the back you can kind of see a little bit. Yeah, you can sort of see in the back a little bit of the plate emboss. So you can see where to line up. And the nice thing with the plexi plate, right, because it's clear, is I had done the backdrop, right, and then I drew on top, right, but then I was able to, normally you would put the plate down flat and then the paper on top, but in the case of multiple passes, after the first pass, I do the opposite, put the paper down flat, and then flip this over on top and line it up with, you know, in this case it was the backdrop, right? It'd help if I'm zoomed out, right? So then I would register it that way. That's probably not the best way to do it. If you really, like, if you're doing lino, multiple plate or like reduction printing with lino, like, there's jigs you can get where it holds, you have like tabs that you put on your paper, and then they have like a little hooky thing on the jig that's got the plate in it. Anyways, other people have done tutorial videos. If you search for printmaking registration, people who are much better at it than me will have done tutorials explaining it. But for this, I didn't mind if it wasn't perfectly lined up. So we had anyway. So I did like the flesh, the body, And I did like, I think with this series there's like 7 or 8 of them. One of them, my opinion, the best one is the one I have framed that's in my dining room. But I wasn't gonna grab that down. But anyways, and actually that one. Every year now I put one of my monotypes in the local fair couch and exhibition, and I always get like a 3rd place ribbon, which is cool. I mean, also I'm like, they don't have it by separate printmaking categories. It's like I was up against one of my acquaintances, very well done, very detailed etchings, you know, so you're like, yeah, there's no way this is going to get first place, right, against something that's like very traditionally done and much more technically proficient. But anyways, it was fun. So I get the rough outline, and then after I did all the bodies, I think actually, pardon me, I think there's like 5 that have the full, and then I had like 4 or 5 others that were just the backdrop that I ran out of time on. So I did the body. After I had all the bodies, it looked really weird, with just like the skin. And then I went in and did a pass with the hair, and I did all the different hair colors. Noah has multi-dimensional hair color. He swears it's all natural, but he does go to the salon regularly. Just saying. Anyways, so it was a couple different shades of brown and like a silvery gray for his hair. And I think I did the confetti. If I pull back, I think the confetti was on the same pass for all of them as his hair. So then I have this weird looking ghost figure. And then again, and each time, of course, I'm going back to the original drawing and tracing it on the plate. So that's the other factor, right? That there's going to be some randomness and misalignment. And of course, when I did the confetti, I also did his maple leaf, protecting his dignity, whatever little bit of dignity he has. And then the last pass was to draw the outline and to go through. And what was I? If I zoom in, so you can see here, one of the things, you have like areas that are very sparse and thin, and then areas that gloop out. And I kind of like that line weight variation when I'm working this way. It's kind of, it looks, well, I mean, it looks like if you're cartooning with a pen that, like a dip pen that's a little bit messed up and gooped up. Sometimes you get those. So, and then it's random, and trying to figure out also if you have a slightly too thick area of ink, deciding which way you're going to put it in the press. So is it going to squish it this way, or are you going to squish it this way, or up or down, right? That's another aspect of the randomness that I like. So Noah's part of the and what we call this then is a varied edition, because obviously they're not all going to be identical. They're going to be variations on the theme, right? And they're open editions. Like, I don't pretend, and again, what I say, I'm not selling these at this point in time. Maybe some point in the future I might, but I'm not going to pretend like, oh, this is a limited edition, blah, 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 because I have the drawings, so I could redraw it every time, and they're all going to be slightly different. So it would be an open, varied edition, I guess would be the way that you would phrase it. I've got, if you go to Michael's, you know, in the storage section, they have the little boxes where it's like 10 cheap plastic drawers, and you assemble it, so they're just sliding out. I have 2 of those sets where I store my prints when they're sort of drying, but also sort of not. Now this one's also, there's a few areas that I'm not picking up any ink from them, but I can definitely feel this doesn't feel super dry. So this is another one. This is, this one was all done in one pass. So on the plate, the first thing I did was, well, actually, usually the first thing I do is color in the flesh tone, and then add the backdrop, add the hair, add any other colors, and the last thing I draw then is all the outlines. So this one is... Oh, and the other thing I was going to say, you got to remember you're reversing things. So this reads correctly because Noah, in his left ear, has a little hoop earring, and in his right ear he has a stud. So I had to remember when I was drawing this, because it was the other way, right? I had to remember, oh yeah, got to put the hoop on the right side so that it goes on the... No, I'm doing that backwards. It has to show on the right side of the paper, which would be his left ear when he's facing you. So you got to draw it on the left side of the paper and his right ear when you're drawing it on the plate because of the reversal. And also you got to remember to draw your Z's backwards, Z's backwards in this case. I have one I did actually with Miles Marv, the half mouse guy, and he's an accountant, money grubbing little accountant. So I actually had to write "pay up suckers," tax season pay up suckers, backwards. I mean, I do that when I do the rough drawing, right? So that it's all sorted out. But I have definitely had ones where I screwed it up and had to redraw it. So this one, I think when I posted the reel of this, I used, is it the Everly Brothers? All I have to do is dream. Because I figured, here he is. Noah's obviously napping. I think the caption was something about Noah's dreaming of cheeseburgers again or something like that. So there you go. And here you can definitely see... I was using a bolder line on the Akua. Oops, is that two? That might be, yeah. There we go. Now we're in focus. So sometimes I try to stretch out the ink so it's even. And sometimes I deliberately leave areas a little bit fatter because I want to see this kind of go, right? But again, that's part of working in that kind of a loose manner. So... And now, sulking Noah. He looks so sad. Also started doing some of these where I use kind of... They're a thinner, or like this, I think I mixed that dark green with a little bit of yellow to get the separate lighter yellow color. I do have somewhere... where it was just the one ink color and applying it more thinly or more thickly to get the shading. But these ones are fun as well. So there's Noah sulking. And this one was based on... It was based on a frame from one of the comics. I forget what he was doing. But he was kind of moping about something. So I did a few, ran a few through the press for this one. And not to be... Noah loves all holidays, especially, and well, I was going to say especially fake holidays, which is a running gag in the comic, but obviously Independence Day, not a fake holiday, very real holiday, but Noah celebrates it just as much as he does Canada Day. I suppose he drinks American beer if he can find it, so... instead of Bolson's, but here's Noah's Independence Day tribute in his sexy Uncle Sam costume, which Ruth keeps trying to get rid of, but until she actually throws it in the trash and makes sure that it gets into the trash and watches that the garbage man takes it away before Noah can go digging through the trash and get his costume out again. This costume will keep coming back and coming back. So there he is. He's all grinning. He's happy. He's showing way too much skin. He also looks probably drunk. And we've got some of those splotchy bits where the press made the Akua go splat. So... And this series, this is another one that got... Not this particular print, but another in the varied series got third place and is framed in my dining room. King Noah the First. I think when I posted this, or the reel for this, and this was, I guess, probably last July or something like that. The caption, I believe, was something to the effect of, King Noah the First is not amused. Looks like somebody explained to him that he can't possibly be turning 29 again when his eldest son is 28. So, and I think what I used for the reel for this, of course, is Tom Petty's It's Good to Be King. That's kind of the fun with these two, is picking out the songs when I'm posting the sped up reels. And this one, I don't know if I posted the... I might have posted still images. I don't know if I posted the real version of it. But this was from last fall. And obviously this is what that drawing became. Oh, and this was one where I had run out of the previous flesh color because I have it in like a little plastic container, right? So the nice thing with Akua ink being gooey is it doesn't really dry out. So if you have it in a little container when you mix a color, I use the ones you get from the dollar store in like the kitchen section. They're screw tops, you know. So I'll mix the color into one of those and screw it on. But I've learned the hard way, don't trust those in your bag. The screw top won't come off, but they're not totally watertight, so sometimes you get oil and you get sticky crap in the bottom of the bag. So I put each one in its own Ziploc bag and then seal the Ziploc. And anyway, so if it leaks, it just leaks into the Ziploc. But I had run out of the previous flesh color, right? You can probably see that's a slightly different shade. But so then I had to mix up some more, and actually I had a couple issues. I think I only did 2 that day. That was the first one, which is it's a beautiful skin color, but not for a Danish dude. And I suspect Noah would probably sunburn more than tan per se, even though he does like hanging out and sunbathing a lot, but I don't think he gets that color. I think he just turns probably more like a lobster. But anyway, so I had to add a little more pink to it. And I'm trying to guess. Those kind of almost look the same. I think this was the second, because that's a little bit darker versus that one, right? Yeah, that might be a little too red. That might be... Anyways, mixing flesh colors is a pain in the butt, is is the point of all this. But this one, I think, probably still needs a little bit more white added to it. But I think this is... So I'll use it for Ricky. I'll have a separate video where I go through Ricky prints, but no, that's the same color. So I'm still working on that flesh color, is I think what I'm saying. Anyways, and of course you want to mix up a lot of it, because then you don't have to mix it as frequently. And again, because Akua lasts longer. What I did the last couple drop-ins I went to was actually not doing multiple colors, just doing monochrome, similar to that, with different shades of the same, and just using what they've got there. I mean, I have my own stash of Akuas. You can use them with jelly plate printing as well, so even though I don't have a press at home, I could use them up. But part of me, I'm kind of tempted to just... at some point in the summer, I may just kind of donate my stash of Akuas to the studio up there at Ladysmith and just be like, yeah, I use them here, but I don't use them at home. And again, it's kind of... This one's sort of dry. This is from last fall, I think. Yeah, well, this is from last fall because it's based on a scene from one of the Noah cartoons. Let's see, that came up with... I don't know if that shows up, but... I'll probably do it this way. Fresh Kleenex. Yeah, so this isn't dry. And it was done in September or October. And it's now the end of May. So, yeah, that's the thing that annoys me with Akua. So, but like I said, in terms of like practicing like a really loose brush strokey kind of thing like down here, because otherwise I tend... Well, I mean, when I'm painting on acrylic, I tend to either be really sloppy deliberately, like working with a painting knife, or I'm there with a little detail brush. So, like, this is kind of a happy medium. But the basic thing is to just, for relaxation, and playing around, and kind of experimenting with different ways of messing with the characters. So, I mean, over the summer, I'm booked for, I think, 5 of the printmaking drop-ins over the summer, so we'll see what work comes out of it. Some days I show up, I have no idea what I'm going to do. I spend the first 20 minutes of... It's like a 4-hour drop-in. I spend the first half hour going through my phone, like, of cartoons I've already done, like... But other times I show up and I actually have a plan. Those are the days where I get a lot done, but... It's kind of more about, you know, in physical fitness, you talk about cross-training, and this is kind of like artistic cross-training, I think. And, yeah, so, as you can see, we are done. I feel like I may have had 1 or 2 more Noah monotypes, but I can't find them. And also, like, definitely I've worked far more with the rat characters in this, in the drop-ins. I have a ton more Ricky B. Rat ones. I have even quite a few Miles ones. I have... Well, one of the jokes is there's a playlist the facilitator, Francesca, plays. It's like best of the CBC Drive or whatever, and they have... U2's Mysterious Ways on the playlist. So if that happens to come up when I'm there, I will tend to stop everything and do a small, quick drawing of Bono as a mouse and do a print like that. So I have like... I don't have a ton of those, but I have like 5 or 6 Bono mouse prints done that way. The one thing that's kind of annoying at times is... you have to... This does force you to go big and bold, right? Because when you have this sort of thing happening... Are we focused? Are we? I don't know. You have this sort of thing. Now, it's weird, because you have, like, fine detail that shows up accidentally if your stuff is very thin, right? And a very light touch with the brush. But if you're doing line work or whatnot, you really can't go smaller than, say, this, because it will splat out, right? So there is one that I did where I kind of knew as I was painting, it's like, this probably ain't gonna work, but it was Ricky B. Rat mowing the lawn, and like his face was like the size of quarter, and even at that, like, it was smeared beyond recognition. So like that, but then that's kind of good in a way that, again, it forces me to work big and bold, which is kind of one of the reasons why I do it. So anyways, a bit of a shorter, I think the last video when the sketchbook tour, when I was done filming it, it was like 1 hour and 45 minutes, and I cut 45 minutes out of it, you know, out of some of the rambling and whatnot, and it still ended up being an hour-long video. So it was kind of nice to break things up and have a shorter, more focused video. So next week, let's see here, because I'm going to try and have a rotation, right, through doing a sketchbook tour, some ceramics, some prints, some drawings, maybe some paintings, if I like small paintings. Obviously I'm going to be trying to I'm gonna be planning to paint more and just film some of that, not all of it, but you know. Anyways, so I'm gonna have a bit of a rotation. I'm not sure if next week I'll be back to ceramics, because I have a ton of ceramics ahead. You know, we barely scratched the surface. Or whether I will... I'm gonna see if I have... I know a couple of years ago I was doing some watercolors and whatnot, and I may have done a kind of a show and tell type video, even though I wasn't calling it that at that time. But if I have, I'll do that. If not, the other thing, well, we'll see. I was going to say I would show, because I'm doing a series of marker sketches of my characters as getting mugshotted. But I'm filming some of those for reels. So when I've done the whole series, which is just through the rest of the month, I'm going to try and have like a monthly theme. When I get through that, I'll probably do a whatever the following Sunday show and tell is, which I guess would be the beginning of June, maybe June 1st. Well, no, not it couldn't be June 1st. Pardon me while I'm thinking, while I'm talking, and probably being completely incoherent, but June 1st is a Sunday, and I tend to film these a couple days in advance so that I'm not having to edit video on Sundays. So it would probably be like June 8th before I'd flip through and show all the mugshots in a row. So anyways, point is, I have no idea what I'll show on the next show and tell video, but I do have some watercolors and whatnot, so I may dig those out and sort of have a flip through. I know I've got some stuff that I did in a class in 2016, which is kind of fun, and then some that I've done more recently. So we may have a few random watercolors, would be kind of a fun one to do for next week, but no promises. I might have a better idea by then, or who knows. Anyways, hope you've enjoyed this week's show and tell. Talk to you next time. Bye.